Let me start by saying that in making this video, I am in no way claiming to be a minimalist, nor am I trying to persuade you to become one. The thought process behind this video is just from my job as a professional organizer, seeing people's homes and dealing a lot with people's things, and then dealing with my own things after having kids. I just feel like we have so many things, and sometimes they can weigh us down so much. So this video kind of stems from my own curiosity on the subject, maybe wanting to kind of pick up some of those traits, some of those minimalism traits, and kind of, I don't think I would go full minimalist, but I like the mindset behind it. So I just wanted to share a few things that I've learned. And if you like those ideas, if you're curious about minimalism, you can kind of take them and run with them, see how they work for you. So what is minimalism? I think a lot of us, when we think about minimalism, we may picture like an empty room with like one plant, and you have like one shirt, one short, one pair of shorts, something like that. And while I guess it can be that, I think that's an extreme example. So that is not like your typical minimalist. So from the research I've done, the core, like the fundamental aspect of minimalism is like an intentional way of living, right? So it's not necessarily give up all your things, don't own anything, be a nomad, don't have these items, but I think it's not letting those items control you or weigh you down, and not having them be the priority. Really trying to be intentional about how you're living, what you're bringing into your home, and like prioritizing what's important to you. I was reading this article and it basically said like, if collecting like My Little Pony figurines is like what makes your world go round, then keep doing that, like you don't have to stop doing that to be a minimalist, but be intentional about it, that type of thing. Another thing I was reading about minimalism that I thought was funny was basically saying like, just because you don't do yoga doesn't mean you're healthy. So just because you don't have all these things doesn't necessarily make you a minimalist. Again, it's not so much about those things. It's the mindset behind those things, which then will lead into possibly owning fewer things. So again, it's that intentionality. It's knowing what you have. It's finding the things that you hold most important to you and being able to really appreciate those things and being intentional with those things and loving those things. So one thing that I have discovered when kind of researching or like thinking about minimalism is oftentimes we value experiences more so than our items. So I think sometimes we may hold on to items when really the experience is really what we value. So, if you're thinking about like a budgeting purpose thing, like instead of maybe buying all these things, maybe you buy a trip, and if you've seen any of my other videos, that I love to travel. That is gladly what I will spend my money on. I would much rather have that experience of traveling rather than spending my money on like material things. And again, I want to highlight that I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having things. I'm curious about, kind of being more of a minimalist. And I know that some of my clients are. And again, I just see a lot of people struggle with all of the things that they have. It weighs them down. It's overwhelming. They're definitely not appreciating it, that sort of thing. So when thinking about another kind of trait of minimalism, and if you're wanting to kind of dip your toe in the water, I would suggest starting by getting rid of the things that you don't truly love, okay? Going around your house and just kind of purging those things, donate them, sell them, that type of thing. Getting rid of the things that you don't truly love. Then another aspect, and you've probably heard this rule, it's kind of, everyone said it, but when you are starting to think about purchasing something, have a 1 in, 1 out rule. So if you're going to buy a new sweater, then get rid of an old sweater. Then you're kind of maintaining that amount that you're comfortable with, that like the amount of items you're comfortable with, maybe the amount that you have space for, and you're not being excessive with it, then you really have those items and can appreciate them and love them. Another thing when thinking about buying something is to give yourself a waiting period. You know, it's kind of like they say with like tattoos, or they say with, you know, like don't make any decisions if you're, tired, hungry, upset, all those things. You know, don't get a tattoo unless you've waited a year or whatever the rules are. But it's the same type of thing. Give yourself a waiting period and then see if you still truly want that thing. You know, I think we all have those ideas in our head of like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I was gonna say a woman thing, but I don't think I think it's kind of universal, but I think it's across the board. But you know, I think we have sometimes this thing that we're like lusting over. You know, maybe we add it to our cart online and then we sit with it for a while. And then we know, right? If you're still thinking about that thing in a couple weeks, if you're still thinking about it in a month, maybe you should buy it and just totally love and appreciate it. But if you've like, after a week, after a couple of days, you haven't even thought about it, then maybe it's smart not to buy it. Save your money for something else, right? And another tip, when you are thinking about purchasing things, think about purchasing like quality items. You know, items that are gonna last. This can be with clothing, this can be with furniture. You know, you're spending your money in a good way. You're not gonna be blowing through a bunch of things. Just, you know, if you're going to have fewer things, then you might as well have high quality items. You know, you're buying less things, you might as well put your money into these quality items. So how can you be intentional with your things today? Again, even if you're not gonna go and label yourself as like a full-blown minimalist, you know, how can you start bringing that intentional way of living into your life, appreciating the things you have, maybe parting with the things that you don't appreciate, and just really giving yourself some freedom to soak in all that you really do love and enjoy. So tell me if you've watched this video. You know, have you watched a lot of minimalist videos? Are you thinking about it? Where are you like in that stage? Have you tried it? You know, tell me a little bit more about your journey. I would love to hear about it. Like I said, with myself, I am really wanting to kind of like get rid of like a lot of the kids' toys and get rid of a lot of like the clothes. I have clothes in my closet that I can't stand, right? You know, and I go through and if I wear it, I don't like it, but it sits in there and it just kind of, you know, it causes you either that anxiety or it just definitely does not spark any joy, right? So I really have been kind of thinking about my things differently and wanting to be more intentional and really just appreciating what I have after I've, you know, done that purge and being intentional with what I'm purchasing and all of that. If you haven't already, please subscribe and I will talk to y'all soon.